Besieged citizens of Debaltseve on eastern Ukraine's front line, trapped for weeks in a war zone, and now with a few precious possessions, a brief chance to get out. Today's short humanitarian truce showed the warring sides can agree on something, a pause in the fighting to load the buses and let the convoy drive away. Meanwhile, in Moscow, a high-powered bid to get a more lasting settlement. It's Angela Merkel's first visit here since the Ukraine crisis began. Both she and the French president want to stop the bloodshed in Europe's backyard. Inside the Kremlin, stiff formality when they met President Putin. Details of their offer are sketchy, except it will start with a ceasefire, then the trickier political deal. This is by no means the first attempt to try and end the bloodshed in Ukraine, but the timing's interesting. There's a lot at stake at the moment, not just the escalation of fighting on the ground, but the economic pressure that Russia finds itself under from sanctions and low oil prices. And now this talk in the United States that if Russia is arming the rebels, maybe they should arm Ukraine. The US Vice President today didn't directly address whether to give Ukraine weapons, but said something must be done.
Ukraine is fighting for their very survival right now. Russia cannot be allowed to redraw the map of Europe.
And this is what so alarms the US and its Western partners: constant military activity right up to Ukraine's border. This helicopter exercise yesterday included hitting precision targets in the southern Russian district abutting Ukraine. It's also why the French and German leaders are so desperate to seal a peace deal to avoid Ukraine's war turning into a clash between Russia and NATO.
I think it's really serious. I think this is the greatest threat to European security probably since the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia in 1968. And I don't think President Hollande is far short of the mark when he says there is a risk of total war. This could escalate.
Here in Moscow, though, plenty of people see this conflict the other way round. The volunteers collecting aid here for the separatists in East Ukraine believe it's not Russia who is the aggressor, but the United States.
This war is not between Ukraine and the rebels, or even between Ukraine and Russia as a whole. It's a war between Russia and the West, and Eastern Ukraine is just the current front line.
That's exactly what President Putin now claims, that Ukraine's crisis is part of a bigger Western campaign to undermine and weaken Russia. If he really believes that, then peace may be hard to find. Bridget Kendall, BBC News, Moscow.